and welcome to another video from the CTAD Clinic. My name's Dr. Mike Lloyd. A question that I get asked quite a bit is around how alters can get into conversations or get into methods of speech that are quite intrusive and without any ability to really sort of close it down or stop it from happening. So this takes place within OSDD and DID, which is Other Specified Dissociative Disorder and Dissociative Identity Disorder. And what happens is there's often a person at the front or a main part at the front who's having a conversation with somebody. It could be on the phone or it could be in face-to-face. And one of the internal dissociated parts inside kind of leaps through and starts talking and takes over the conversation. And it can be really odd and it can be quite jarring because a lot of the times the person who was at the front can still hear, they can feel like they're completely present, but their voice has been taken over. So the words that are being spoken, even maybe a dialect or any of that kind of thing, but the words that are being spoken are not theirs. They're fully aware of what's being said, and there's often a total lack of control about stopping it from happening. It's kind of like your voice is being hijacked and somebody else is talking through you and you are absolutely powerless to do anything about it. That definitely happens in OSDD and DID. It's not a defining characteristic of each, so whether it happens or whether it doesn't happen isn't part of the diagnostic criteria for these things, but it's one of those presentations that takes place that can really be quite disruptive. And when we think about these conditions, things like OSDD and DID, and also to a degree partial DID, I think could also be included in this, it's one of those things that helps us understand quite how disruptive and how disabling these conditions can be, because you can imagine almost infinite scenarios that could take place where you really would not want something like that to be happening. So let's say if you were speaking to someone in a job interview, or you were negotiating a price for something, or you were talking to a family member or a friend, or you were having a conversation at a funeral or a party or wherever it might be. There's these countless types of scenarios where you would absolutely not want your voice to be taken over, because the likelihood is that something is going to get said that you don't particularly want to be said. Not always. Sometimes a part might come through because they know what needs to be said and you're just not saying it. So they might be sitting in the background in frustration going, I'm just waiting for you to say something, but you're not saying it. So boom, here I come. I'm going to say the thing that needs to be said. I've got the answer in my head and I'm going to throw it down and then I'm going to disappear. So if you were in a pub quiz, for example, and you just didn't know the answer to the question, and a part was sitting in the background and they knew the answer to the question, they might come through and blurt out the answer. And that might be good for you to know the answer, but it also tells everyone else what the answer is. Not so great. They're not going to care about that. So sometimes I think what happens is parts are just sitting in the background. They are watching, they're scrutinizing, they're using their vision, they're using all of their sort of peripheral signals to measure what's taking place and wondering, do I need to intervene? Do I need to intervene? Do I need to intervene? That's part of the hypervigilance of the traumatic reaction. A lot of parts are just sitting there waiting to be needed. So they're constantly scouting for the opportunities to get in, to either protect, to get into fight mode, to get out of trouble, to deal with a scenario, because their intrinsic state of being is the person at the front, the child that was during traumatic experience, was not able to deal with and handle the events that were taking place in childhood because they were a child and they haven't quite allowed that child to grow up and take responsibility. They still feel like they need to jump in, rescue any scenario that takes place, get involved, deal with the situation at hand. And sometimes that's helpful, but by and large, it's probably not going to be all that helpful. And the difficulty comes that the person is just then powerless. They're immobilized. Their voice has been taken over. The parts are speaking through them. The parts then often disappear, and the person at the front or the part at the front then has to deal with the fallout of anything that may have been said or may have been done. An example could be you are talking to somebody, let's say in a shop, and the interaction is not going well. They're not giving you the thing they want. You're trying to deal with, let's say, returning an item, and a part comes out and says something offensive or something unpleasant, which causes a conflict response, you're then escorted from the premises and you've got no chance of being able to deal with your return item, and you're kind of banned from ever going in that shop ever again for the rest of your life. Any of that stuff can easily happen. You're the one having to deal with it. The part just sits on the inside saying, I dealt with that, off I go, not my problem anymore, nothing to do with me. And yet this is created a more difficult situation than there already was in the first place. So I've had loads of examples talking to patients in clinic settings where they're saying it's a complete nightmare. They say something, they insult people, they laugh at things when they shouldn't laugh, they say things that they shouldn't say. It's acutely embarrassing, it's humiliating, it causes me a lot of grief, and I then have to do all the backtracking and the apologizing and make it happen. And it also demonstrates that there might be a system going on where the dissociation should be hidden in order to cope with everyday life, and suddenly this intrusion prevents it from being hidden, and there's a lot of sort of like covering up and repair work that has to be done. So yes, this absolutely can happen. It often, I think, demonstrates the frustration of the parts on the inside that they can't deal with things in the outside world and they suddenly just jump in and get it done. It demonstrates the hypervigilance of them. It demonstrates the sense that they're sitting in the background, watching, waiting, feeling that they're needed to have to deal with scenarios all the time. That formulation as to why this stuff happens is absolutely critical. No surprises there whatsoever. One of the things that we then do in therapeutic settings is we look at the example, we get the patient to describe the context, to describe the setting, the scenario was taking place, the new conversation that got intruded in, the things that got said, and the consequences of that. And very often, if not nearly all the time, there is a logical reason why that thing happened, that thing got said at that moment in time. It allows us to formulate what's happened. It allows us to see what the intentions are of the parts on the inside, who sometimes don't communicate directly in other ways. It acts then as a portal to what's going on the inside, what the internal motivations, the moods, the feelings, the wishes, the desires, the aspirations, the frustrations, all of those things. It gives us insight into how that internal system is operating. It allows us then to start negotiating with that internal system to find a more practical, a more productive, a more adaptive way of being able to give them a voice so that it's not done on that basis. We can also add in queuing functions so that things can be said. I want to say this. Are you going to let me say this, or are you going to say it? It builds that sense of internal communication within the OSD and the DID so that the unexpected intrusion doesn't happen. The worst thing is to try and block it off, prevent it from happening, or shut all of that stuff down, because it's going to come out more heavily and more dramatic later on down the line. I always think the thing to do then is formulate, understand it, and then engage with it in a really peaceful, patient, empathic, and compassionate way. As always, that's the approach that we would take. I hope that's been a useful video. Lots of people will probably got many examples of when this has happened to them, often quite embarrassing, often quite difficult, often quite requiring a lot of repair work. Please feel free to put some of those in the comments if you would like, because it's useful for people to be able to see that I'm not on my own with having to deal with this kind of stuff. It is a very, very common part of the experience of having conditions like OSDD, partial DID, and DID. I hope this video has been really useful. Thanks ever so much for watching. Please put the comments in, please do like, subscribing, and between now and the next video that we put out on this channel, as always, please do take great care.